Hey, Brian. Montreal Washington has been obviously impressive in camp. Three catches for 60 yards yesterday. I'm wondering, what do you think of his game yesterday, and what more do you guys want to see out of him to be able to make the roster?
I thought he did some good things. Had good run after catch, which he's had in camp. It's one of those deals in camp where they say, yeah, he was tagged down. Was he tagged down? Was he? He had a big play on that play on the sideline to the right. Um, I'd say he'd be the first one to say he could have finished a couple plays down there in the fringe on third down, which would have helped us, hopefully generate some scoring points, touchdowns instead of field goals. Conscientious guy that's competing. He's made some plays and still things to improve on.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Jordan Renan.
Hey, Brian, what's going on?
Jordan.
I'm wondering what you saw when you went back and you looked at your quarterbacks yesterday. Obviously, from first glance, it seemed like they were impressive. I'm wondering what you thought.
Yeah, I think that starts with the offensive line, giving them good protection. But all four of them did a nice job in the pocket, kept their eyes downfield, and made plays when they could make them. Had that one where we bounced back, the one where we were called for, or they were called for defensive offsides. We threw it to the post safety there, and then Jameis came back and kind of reloaded and drove down and hit it. Russell was efficient. Tommy was good, efficient, made good decisions. So I thought all four of those players, albeit preseason game where you're not seeing many things, did their jobs and did them at a fairly high level.
And then turning the page real quick, how do you expect to approach this week with the joint practices with the Jets? And maybe do you expect Malik to likely participate in this?
Yeah, we'll
Yep.
see.
What's the smirk for?
We'll see. I'm not going to get into injuries or who didn't play or right now. So we'll practice against them on Tuesday, and everybody that can practice will practice, and those that can't won't.
And what about the approach? Like, what are you trying to get out of it? What do you look for when you do these joint practices?
Well, it's good to go against different schemes, different players, matchups. As long as you practice the right way, AG and I have a really good relationship. We've talked about it a number of times of our scheduling and what we're looking to get out of it, which is good competitive work against different teams that do different things. So and have different matchups, and you're able to look at their team, they're able to look at us. They got a lot of players out there that are competing for roster spots. So I think it serves multiple roles.
Brian Dunleavy.
Hey, Brian.
Ryan?
Turbo converted a 3rd and 8, a 3rd and 9, a 3rd and 12, and a 2nd and 10 into first downs. Obviously, you have three running backs who are already pretty set on your roster. But what have you seen from him, and what does that kind of explosiveness do when a guy's trying to make the roster and he's turning 3rd and longs into first downs?
Yeah, it's a competitive, roster spots that are out there. It's not just competing against running backs; it's competing against other positions that are fighting for roster spots. Special teams wise, special teams will be important. Um, you have a starting running back. We have a starting running back. We have a couple other running backs that we think are going to help us, and then Turbo is firmly in that mix based on his performance. But special teams will be very important for him, and the roles that he can help us with in those areas relative to making the roster and going to a game. But he got player of the game on offense for us this game, and he did a lot of good things for us, and we'll keep on working with him.
Are you aware that you set the social media ablaze by dropping a 6-7 that none of us you were talking to even knew what you were talking about?
Yeah, I didn't think you guys would know.
We didn't.
Oh.
No, we didn't. We needed social media to tell us. Is that something you picked up from Dart or from your kids?
My kids.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Dan Duggan.
Hey Brian, Nick Jones was out there with the ones. Just curious why you put him in that spot and what'd you see from him?
Drew wasn't able to go, so he went in. Competed, did some good things, some things to clean up, just like everybody. But he was the next guy up when Drew came out.
Anything serious with Drew?
Uh, No, just couldn't finish. So falls in line with all the other injured guys right now.
All right, and then speaking of injured guys, with Andrew Thomas, any chance he gets activated this week?
We'll just take it day by day with him and keep on improving him. So when he can do more, he'll do more, and whatever it is, that's when it'll be.
Charlotte Carroll.
Hey Brian, how's it going?
Hey, Charlotte.
You brought up the offensive line. What did you see from Marcus Bowe and what he was able to do yesterday?
Yeah, I thought he did a good job. Protected well, is athletic. Knew all the plays, the assignments that he had. He's had a good camp up to this point. We played him on both sides, and he's done a nice job since he's been here.
Thank you.
Yep.
Paul Schwartz.
Hey, Brian.
Paul?
Hey, you had your offense coordinator, play caller on the sideline for this game. Is that just a preseason thing, or is that to kind of see the feel and how that works down there?
Yeah, it's something we talked about in the offseason. I think it went well. I think there was good communication. We'll see what we do this week. It's what these preseason games are for. But operationally wise, I was pleased with how things went.
Is you've done both, right? I'm sure in your career you've been up, you've been down. What do you prefer? I mean, obviously, when you're doing it as a head coach, you got to be on the sideline. But as a coordinator, what works best in your mind?
I think it's an individual preference. I think there's probably pros and cons for each spot. Calling it upstairs, calling it downstairs would be a good question for Mike. There's different things. You're less emotional when you're upstairs. It's a more calm environment. Can maybe see part of the field a little bit better. Downstairs, there's I'd say better conversations. A lot of times, easier conversations when you're right there around the quarterbacks, able to communicate with the coaches. So this is something that we wanted to try for this game. We'll sit down and I thought it went well. I'll talk to Mike about plans going forward for the next game and then the third game, and then ultimately we'll make the decision that we feel best about for the opener.
One other follow-up to that. So if Mike is on the field, right, he's got to have someone upstairs who's his eyes upstairs, right? So who
Yeah, we have a number of guys. We have a big staff, so there's a number of guys that are upstairs. And again, I thought the communication really in all three phases was good. The information, and again, that's what these games are for. We haven't coached in however long it is, and we have new people on the staff, and that's what part of these games are for too, is so that we can get aligned and make sure our communication process is right for our players.
Thank you.
Yep.
We'll take two more. Evan Barnes.
Hey, Brian.
Evan.
Jaxson was talking yesterday about how some of the guys were hoping that he would slide on that 19-yard run, and I'm curious.
I'm sorry, Jaxson?
Jaxson, yeah.
Jaxson, okay, sorry.
Yeah. So my question is just kind of how are you, when you go back and look at that play, how are you guys, reminding him or reinforcing him, hey, I want to slide instead of taking a dive instead to avoid those hits?
I thought it was a good play.
That's it? Just a good play?
Yeah, it was a good play. 20-yard gain. He's out there with the ball in his hand. There's times that call for you to slide, and maybe there's other times that aren't. Obviously, we want to minimize the hits for our quarterbacks, but there's a competitive nature to that position as well. And he's going to learn as he goes. Got a lot of guys that can run with the ball. We want to take as few hits as we can, and sometimes there's plays that you're not going to be able to get down. You're just going to have to do a good job of getting your pads low and protecting yourself. But he's been a good runner in college. We'll do a good job with working out the kinks of him carrying the ball. But I have confidence in his instincts and what he sees out there and when he needs to do it. And we'll try to minimize as many hits as he can, but he's a competitor. And I like that about him.
He said that you said that about him, so I was just curious to make sure.
Yep.
And then to follow up, you mentioned obviously your relationship with Glenn over at the Jets. I'm curious when you guys discuss these joint practices, just kind of how far back does that relationship go, where you guys could easily figure that out smoothly?
AG's in mind?
Yeah, how far back does that relationship go?
I'd say a number of years. Since he was a DB coach back at the Saints, but obviously he was a player when I first started in this league. So I've known AG for a long time. Got a lot of respect for him as a man and as a coach. Easy to work with. We've communicated a bunch throughout the years. Obviously the last couple of years at Detroit when he was the defensive coordinator, and we've gone through situations of how we're going to practice, way we want the tempo to be, the periods. Got a lot of respect for him, and the communication process has been good.